Welcome back and thank you for staying with us on Daybreak Extra. Let's start this segment by taking a look at the front page of the Daily Trust, which is the weekend trust this Saturday. Major story is talking about the local government autonomy, hurdles to implementation, questions over the feasibility of the local governments receiving allocations directly. There's a push for INEC to conduct the local government elections also intensifies. There's need to amend the 1999 constitution. That's according to lawyers. Now, this situation about the local government autonomy is something that we, of course, have been bringing you all the developments about the situation. And it started with people pushing for the autonomy, and now that it's given, there are questions of how the implementation, which was something experts also pinpointed their fears about. Always, when it comes to implementation, there is a bit of skepticism of how it's going to pan out in Nigeria. So there are allegations, however, that governors have taken advantage of the JAAC to dip their hands into the funds meant for the exclusive use of local governments while appropriating the bulk of the money. Already, I think last week, there's been a bit of concerns that even in the local government group, which is AFCON, they seem to have a bit of a rift between them. Allegations coming out there saying there seem to be interference, and you know how Nigerians are saying I have to be loyal to my principle. So it's bringing a divide between them already, which it's not the main aim why Nigerians push for this. If Nigerians are saying we need you to have the money, that way we can hold you responsible, that way we know that you know the people, like right from the root on that one. And then pushing for the INEC to conduct local government elections intensifies. Why there's an autonomy, I don't know why there seems to be a delay on that part, where local government should, INEC should be the one to go into states and conduct this local government, because still the governors are doing it. And if at all the governors are the one making the decision on who is to, take, even though they say it's all free and fair, but it's not what, people are saying. So if at all there's an interference of governors saying we have to be the one to take care of, to conduct this election, then definitely the local government autonomy is not really an autonomy, if you ask me. So currently 21 states in the country are without duly elected local government chairmen and councillors, but under makeshift arrangement where the governors appointed interim committees to administer the council. Now, these details of this situation, I will urge Nigerians, everyone, to go through the weekend trust to understand this, because I always take pride in telling you people you need to understand something in order to ask the right questions. And one of the things that would make you curious to know how to hold the local government accountable is you understanding what is given to them, how much. I seem to have the numbers, but I hope you can go Google, because of no time to dissect all of this. But each local government, based on state, the federal government have shown it publicly how much they give local governments, and it's huge amount of money. We're talking in billions. So go ahead, understand all of this, and know how to hold your local government councils accountable. Below the headmaster, there we see day 10 of #EndBad Governance protest. Organizers threaten 1 million march. That is for today. We've seen how organizers have pulled back due to a lot of people, sabotaging the efforts of the peaceful protest. And I remember, I think on day 6 or 7, organizers said they are going to do 3 days of mourning for the people who lost their lives. But then now there's threats of saying the day 10, they might come in full force. At the end of the day, we all just hope for safety. If you decide to come out, please pay attention. You're also a security agent yourself. Away from that, we see trade union leaders don't retire. That's according to Comrade Hassan Sumonu. You find out on page 25. Over 30 killed in fresh Benue attack. My heart breaks for exactly what is happening in Benue. And we hope the governors and the local governments, tend to do something that would avert the loss of lives. We don't need that at this point. Alaba inside Nigeria's biggest electronics market. Alaba, which is, of course, known for its electrical expertise. You can find that on page 3. Now, these are some of the stories that you'd find on the Daily Trust, Weekend Trust. Now let's move on to Saturday Punch, where major story is about federal government floods major cities with policemen ahead of 1 million man march. Massive cops deployment in flashpoints, protest venues nationwide. Organizers tackle federal government on rights violation and demand release of demonstrators. That story is on page 4. Below the major story, we see governor fumes as 50 villagers killed in Benue mass murder. I have not cut ties with Mr. Ibu's family. That's according to Jasmine. Police quizzed Tonto Dike over alleged cyberbullying. Below the belt there, it says idle Ajaokuta workers got 38.9 billion naira salaries in 10 years. That's according to investigation. Now, that is a controversial, topic. Where government, maybe institutions or organizations or agency would be running without fully doing what it's supposed to do, and then still being paid, like taxpayers' money is still being used in order to, pay people that work there. Ajakuta is something that has been there since forever, and nobody, even when there's been assignment of people to go there and make sure that the whole project is done, nobody has achieved it. And billions of naira seems to be thrown into that project. It breaks our heart how much corruption has eaten deep into our system. Below the headmaster there, we see stranger than fiction. Woman with female and male sex organs fathers 2 children. Interesting. Below that, beside there, we see did security operatives use live ammunition during #N bad governance protest? That's according to Fact Check. I don't think that's a question because we saw a lot of people die in Zaria. There was a man that was in his home, or a child that was inside his father's house, that live ammunition penetrated and met. We saw how that happened, which was careless of our security agencies, shooting live ammunition towards protesters. Beside that, we see celebrity activists they're present at the #End SARS missing in #N bad governance. Well, we know why. All right, I see a picture of Aisha, but we know why a lot of people decided to stay out of this, because right from the beginning there was a bit of saying it's from the opposition party that someone is pushing. Like, Nigerians don't know what is really bothering them. But yeah, these are some of the stories that you find on the Saturday Punch. Let's move forward to the Guardian newspaper this morning. Major story says why joy of huge population still eludes Nigeria. That story you'd find on page 28 and 29. NLC holds emergency and NEC meeting over alleged invasion today. We've seen the back and forth with the NLC and the security agencies, where NLC is saying people invaded and they pointed finger at the DSS. But then the DSS, the spokesperson, Afonaya, came out to say that we did not invade, but there seemed to be an invasion, and it is one of the federal agencies. So it's something that is clear. I don't know why, nobody is coming out to acknowledge this, but NLC's office should not be invaded. These are the two means that Nigerians can actually voice their concerns to the government: one, through the organized labor Congress, and then 2, through protests. So if both are being taken away from them, then the people will feel that they don't have mouth or access to the government ears. So there should not be any intimidation on the NLC. Below there, we see Anyaoku led the Patriots asks Tinubu, that is President Tinubu, to convene Constituent Assembly. We find that story on page 3. Nigeria and other African nations on red alert as deadlier version of Mpox spreads. Please do stay safe when it comes to all of these diseases re-emerging. What if Buhari had endorsed Osibajo or Adesina? Interesting question there, but he did not. Right now we have a precedent, so what ifs, I feel it's something that should be put aside. The most important thing is what way to go forward. These are the stories you'd find on the Guardian newspaper this morning. Let's move on to the next story of the next newspaper, which is the Daily Independence. Major stories: harsh and bad governance protests, condemnation trails the raid on NLC Secretariat by security operatives. Amnesty International says attack on civic space to intimidate the union. Action: attack on rights of Nigerians, threat to democracy. That's according to the Trade Union Congress. We did not carry out any operation at NLC Secretariat. DSS was somebody did, and that person needs to come and speak out, because it does not speak well of the government, honestly, if things like this have been done, especially in a union that is supposed to protect Nigerians' right. Below that, we see Arik Air resumes services 8 days after operations were grounded. Lagos explosion not linked to the NGML NIPCO CNG stations. That's according to NNPC. 10 vehicles burned, 9 persons injured, 2-story buildings damaged. We saw that sad, horrific situation happen on Thursday, where the village station, due to gas explosion, even though nobody died, but then people got injured. And vehicles were destroyed. But then, yes, there was a bit of speculation saying it's the CNG that could have triggered that. But the NNPC are saying, no, that is not the case. Beside that, the pictorial of Mr. President and the Rear Admiral Olumuyiwa. We see 20 die as cargo boat explodes and sinks in Bayelsa waterways. This is a really sad situation also that happened. I think it was on Wednesday or Thursday, I'm not sure of the time, but we lost another 20 lives to an explosion. And Bayelsa is one state where we know that a boat is one of the most important means of transportation because of the water there. So you don't have a choice but to go on boat. And it really breaks my heart, that these people lost their life. Our hearts goes to the families of these victims. Tinubu's government adopting propaganda and misinformation as state policy. That's according to the former vice president and, of course, the presidential candidate of the 2023 election for PDP, Atiku Abubakar, saying that court restrains PDP and Damagun from conducting congresses in Benue. Party suspends Suswan and Segba and others. You find that story on page 6. There seems to be internal crisis going on for the longest time in Benue State. Like, you people need to get your things together because the people are hungry and need, government to do right. This is not a time for party or political fights and all of that. We see Tinubu direct security agencies to crack down on illegal miners. Like, I don't even know how much to emphasize on these particular issues, because it confuses me when people would walk. Sometimes you literally see outsiders. I'm talking about someone from maybe the Asian part of the country. Clearly, you see that person, that person is not from Nigeria. And these people would penetrate, go to a state, go to a local government, start mining. And we're supposed to believe that, they're not being sponsored to steal from Nigerians and hosts. I mean, literally, that there is rules in the Constitution where it says, if at all there is a discovery of any mineral resources, then the government is meant to pay the host community some percentage. But now you're stealing from the host, and we've seen how, because of all of this happening, it tends to breed insecurity in the country, killings of these same host communities, and it's stealing from our nation just for few people's pocket. I commend the president for this. It's something that we really need to look into, and hope the perpetrators of this horrible act, pay for this, because stealing from the country is a no-no, and you should pay for that. Below the page of the Daily Independence, it says again, CBN boosts FX markets with $876 million and commits to provide liquidity. These are some of the stories that you'd find on the Daily Independence. All right, let's move on to this day newspaper there, where the top of the page is saying NUPRC faults Dangote refinery's accusation of reluctance to facilitate crude supply. Abbas points new committee members to probe petroleum industry. There's still an investigation with a committee that's supposed to go through and find, the accusations that Dangote came out to do, saying they have refused to sell him crude oil in Naira. But it's still ongoing. But then there seemed to be an accusation. The fault, the accusation. So we hope to hear more on that, because Nigerians deserve the transparency of what is going on and the discovery of that committee. MBS puts average cost of healthy diet at 1,241 Naira, highest in the southwest. That story is on page 6. Elumelu, that's below the headmask, how Buhari Abakari blocked my initial move to acquire oil field. If that happened, then it saddens my heart how we have individuals who want to literally invest in our country, which is something we've been praying for, because we've seen a majority of Nigerians go out to invest in other countries. Literally, Nigeria is one of the people that grew the UAE, that's Dubai. Nigeria is one of the countries that invested in the market, and a country that started as a desert is gaining more and can even decide what happened in their country at this point. They are on a global level. But then in Nigeria, there's always, I don't know why this is, there is always a sabotage, a plan to not allow Nigerians to invest in our country and grow our own economy. And that is something that should not even happen. It should not be allowed, because that is, for me, it's an economic sabotage. So that should be looked into, and hopefully things like this never happens again, because we've seen Dangote come out to say he's not even going to invest in steel anymore because of what is going on, when it comes to refineries. And honestly, no matter how much we see him as a monopolist and all of that, Dangote have proven to at least once again taking Nigeria on another level. When globally they said among the 10 refineries in the world, Dangote is making a top chart, and he's not in the bottom 10. So that should say a lot about how much we need to support our very own to invest in our economy in order to grow. When they say Nigeria is one of the biggest economy in Africa, truly we have the potential. All we need to do is get rid of the bad eggs amongst us that literally do not want the country to grow because of their pocket. Below that, we see Anyaoku and other Patriot members ask Tinubu to convene National Constituent Assembly for new constitution, one against Nigeria's disintegration, wants the federal government and state government to dialogue with protesters on way forward. President, strengthening nation's economy, top priority of my government. That's according to President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Promises to review the Patriots' request. All right. You find that on page 5. More states dispute federal government's claim of disbursing 573 billion naira grant. I'm not sure of this grant, if it's the one of the rice, but we saw a minister come out to say any governor that says he did not receive the 20 truck of rice, then that person is not even being fair or honest at all. And we've opened the phone line to ask people if at all you've received any sort of palliative from your state government, and people seem to not have even heard about it, which brings us to the point of saying we cannot only blame the president alone. Sometimes he does his part, but then we have to hold other people accountable. So pay attention to your state and your local government. Onyi Lola heads PDP 25-man National Reconciliation Committee. Now, these are the stories that you'd find on the This Day newspaper this morning. Quickly, let's take a look at the Vanguard newspaper this morning, where the major story says Nigerians tell federal government how to end bad governance. It says downsize cabinets, because one of the things with this topic is we've seen people from, representatives of the federal government say there was no alignment, there was no concise or clear message or demand of the end bad governance protest. And so now these people are coming out to say, okay, this is exactly what we want. And they said we want a downsized cabinet, reduce the cost of governance. Hence the end bad governance tag, saying fight corruption with all sincerity. I mean, one of the things that someone like me, I would say I had, I have hope on Mr. President is that Mr. President has always prided himself as someone who is there to fight corruption. But I got skeptical a bit when Mr. President said corruption is fighting back. I got a bit skeptical because definitely corruption is meant to fight back. But we need to see Mr. President fighting it back, because if there is one thing that has crumbled our economy, it is, corruption. Also, the end bad governance is saying stop crude oil theft. There seems to be an increase on a daily basis of that crude oil theft. People know it is happening, but then there seems to be maybe there's an effort, but it hasn't really curbed, this particular concern as well. Reverse economic policies, which was one of the demands, saying the president should reverse the unification of the naira and also the removal of fuel subsidy. The protesters are saying end culture of impunity, fight insecurity and boost agriculture, invest substantially in critical sectors and ensure justice, equity, rule of law, ensure electoral reforms. There seem to be, demands, but this is what the end bad governance protest it's all about. That's according to these protesters. Beside that, we see why protests turned violence in the north. That's according to the northern leaders. Yeah, they seem to. I've read even security experts analyze the situation of why it happened in the north. But if there is one thing that has shown in this protest is that the north is a very vulnerable place. The north is a place that needs help. The north is a place that is way left behind when it comes to poverty, when it comes to education, employment. There seems to be a lot that is detaching the north from the rest of the country, going on the same level, and that has shown itself in the protests. So we hope that the governors, we hope that our leaders in the northern part of Nigeria, because that responsibility has to start with you. It falls on your shoulder. You need to look at your people, because your people right now needs your help and are pretty angry. I'll have to tell you that. And there is a feature of Oma Nandi. These are the stories. All right, below this page there, or at the top of the page rather, we see Dangote Refinery. We still cannot secure our full crude requirement. That's according to management. Battles Onyeka fought in her marriage. How she was tricked to play in Abacha's 1 million March show. You find that on page 12. I read somewhere that Onyeka, the legendary musician and actress, would be buried before the end of the month. Our hearts go to her family once again. She was a beauty, true beauty, and bag of talent. But I don't know. I feel her legacies should be portrayed more than her woes that she suffered. Beside that, we see Makinde faults Tinubu on 570 billion naira grant. Says states receive money from World Bank, not from the federal government. Governor Sule confirms. Now, there seems to be back and forth on this situation on the federal government and the local government. And to be honest, I wish I had dived into this situation to get it all on with you. But I'm giving Nigerians assignment. Go ahead and read this 570 billion naira grant that the federal government is saying we've given to states, and the states are saying, no, we did not get from you, we got from World Bank. And if the states are getting it from World Bank, then it's coming as a loan, not a grant. So these are things that we need to read to understand in order to, as I say, always ask the right questions when it comes to the growth of the economy, because it's not just the federal, states, local government's responsibility. Also, as Nigerians, we need to put our head together and find a better solution. So get on with that, read that, let's hear from you. Well, this is the much that we can take on the front pages of the national dailies. Make sure you read through to understand this. But yeah, do not go anywhere. We will come back and open the phone line to hear from you about certain situation. It's always our favorite part. And yeah, I have someone with me already. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.